This video looks at the new features in version 3 of Samsung Xchange. Version 3 was released in Q1 of 2018, and initially it supports just the desktop PC client. Later on we'll be supporting the Xchange operator and the Mac clients as well, but for now version 3.0 is just the PC client. We assume in this video that you already know all about Xchange, you're familiar with its features and functionality, as we're just going to cover the major features or the new features in version 3. If you're not familiar with Xchange, you need to look at the full sales presentation, which goes to all of the features and functions and benefits of the product. So the first thing to mention about version 3 is we've changed the naming of some of the client versions. So now for the Office Serve installations, we have Dial, Dial Plus and Integrator. If you're familiar with previous versions of Xchange, you'll know that one of them was called Presence, but that's now called Dial Plus. On the SCM platforms, we also have new versions now called Business, Business Plus and Integrator. So we've divided out the naming of the Office Serve installation products versus the SCM. They're actually functionally equivalent though. So Dial on the Office Serve platform is called Business on the SCM. They're functionally equivalent, they're just named differently. Equally, Dial Plus on Office Serve is the same as Business Plus on the SCM. Also worth noting that the Dial version now includes the user view as well as the extension view on the Presence window. That was previously only available in the old Presence version of version 2 of Xchange. Something that we don't actually cover in this presentation, but just worth noting as well, is that the Integrator version of both versions of the platform products offers a wider range now of integration into partner and standard applications. We cover the details of that in the full sales presentation. So the main thing to mention about version 3 is that we've redesigned the client interface. So you see 3 examples on the screen here. On the left you have the system tray menu, and then on the right you have the preview window and the presence window. As you can see, they're all sort of a fresh new design following modern and current design trends. We've also incorporated user feedback as well, both from end users but also from distributors and resellers as well. So we've put some changes in to reflect what people want to see in the product, how they want the product to look and feel. We've also changed the dialing icons as well, just made them a little bit more self-evident as what each of the icons mean. So when you're navigating around the system using the different windows, you can see quite clearly what each of the icons is actually meant to do. So if we start to take a look now at the different windows and how they've been redesigned, we'll start off with the system tray menu. You bring it up in the same way as you did in the previous version, just right clicking on the icon in the system tray itself. So it's divided into 3 sections. On the left hand side you have some menu options. Down below you have the text entry that you had before that was previously at the top of the menu, and then in the middle here you have some more menu items as well. This middle area is also a display area. So for example, if I go into my recent list, you'll see it displays those recent calls actually within the system tray menu. If you're familiar with previous versions, you'll remember that it sort of popped out to the left or to the right hand side. Equally, if you go into the help section, then you'll see the help gets loaded actually into the main area as well. So it's kind of like a display area as well as being a menu area as well. If you want to bring the menu options back up again, you just click on the little home icon and that brings the other menu items back up again. If you just take a look at how the searching actually works down below in the text area, you can search for different contacts and different bits and pieces. So if I just look for a contact first of all, and you'll see it displays the results of the search directly within the system tray menu. So you could still go to the shared address book to find users and contacts, but you can do that searching directly here and those search results are displayed for you, and obviously you can then dial directly from here to that particular contact. Notice also you can see the little presence icon or the status of the user's extension. So again, you could go into presence and look up users' presence sort of status, but you can see that information here within the system tray menu as well. So everything is quite self-contained now within the system tray menu. It's become the sort of central place where you use the main features of the product. We've also changed the way the online help works. So if you go into the help icon or the help option, you can see the main help being displayed. If you do a search for some help or on a particular item that you're looking for, it brings up the search results. I'm just looking for anything that has mentions dialing in its subject. Brings up the search results. If you click on one of the items, it will automatically start up your web browser and will take you to the item in the online help that you clicked on. So it takes you directly there. So it's a very quick way of looking up help information for Xchange. Once you're here, you can click around and you can go to the different items as well if you want to. So once you're in the online help, you can navigate around. But the idea is it takes you directly to that item that you clicked on in the system tray menu. Something else that's new in version 3 is we've added the concept of user profile photographs or contact photographs. So users can now upload a photo so that it can be better identified in the various screens. So if the photo is uploaded, then that photo will be visible for that user in the preview screen, in the presence, in messaging, in call history, and in the address book. So it cuts right the way through the whole product. If a user doesn't have a photo uploaded, then their initials are used in place. So again, this is following sort of current design standards or styles that are used in most other products these days. Just to briefly show you how easy it is for users to upload their profile photograph, go into the system tray menu, go into presence, brings up the present screen as usual. You can see I've got my photo uploaded already. If there wasn't one there, it would just show my initials. I can click on the icon and then I can load the photograph up either from my computer or I can actually capture it directly from my webcam. So I can take a photograph straight away and load that straight in as my user profile photograph, and it appears there, and you can see I'm actually listed in presence and it's down there as well. You can see other users that have uploaded their photographs, and you can see if they haven't done so, then their initials are used instead. We've redesigned the preview window in version 3. It now dynamically resizes depending on the context or the nature of the call, whether it's an internal call versus an external call. So for example, if I do an internal call first of all, you can see it's the standard size as it was before, as non-intrusive as possible. If instead I start up an external call and just get that going, then you can see the window is dynamically resized. The reason it's done that way is that now if you have any contact information in the shared address book, that's displayed as part of the preview window. Previously that was available. There was a little clip icon that you could click on and that would show you the additional contact information. Now it's automatically displayed within the preview window. So the window will grow and shrink as necessary depending on the amount of information that needs to be displayed. Other than that, the functionality of the preview window is pretty much the same as it was in version 2. The only other difference though, just to mention, is that we now have stacking as well. So previously if you had more than one call active at any time, there'd be a preview window displayed for each of the individual calls, and obviously that could be sort of 2 or 3 windows displayed all in one go. We now have stacking so that the active call is at the front and then the other calls are stacked behind it. So again, if I just show you how that works, just start the initial call up again. So there we have our external call there. If I bring up another call and I call a colleague, now you can see it actually looks as though it's just the one preview window, but there's actually 2. So you have the external call is the one that's at the front at the moment, but if I click on the top of the window, it brings the other call forward, and I can keep literally toggling backwards and forwards between the different calls. So the idea of this is that it takes up less of the screen. You know, we're stacking those calls behind each other rather than displaying them, you know, one after the other on the sort of right hand side of the screen. You've seen the presence window a couple of times. We've redesigned that as well, as you can see from the example here. We've mentioned already the user's photograph. Each individual user on the presence is displayed on a 2-line display where you have their name at the top and their extension number down below. You also have their availability showing on the right hand side. If I just show you how that actually works, you can actually set availability now within the presence window. So if I go into my presence screen, on the right hand side here, if I click on it, it brings up a little pop-up where I can actually select my availability within presence. This is the sort of logical place where you might want to do that when you're looking at other people's presence. So what you can do here is you can set your availability type, and you can say how long you're going to be in that availability state for. So for example, if you're going into a meeting, for example, or whatever, you can actually set how long that status is relevant. And as you can see down below, I've got mine set at the moment, I'm available till 11 o'clock. You can also put some display text in there as well. Notice also if I set my D&D at the moment, you can see the little green strip next to my name, or my face at the moment. If I just set my D&D on for a moment, you can see it's now displaying as a do not disturb. So people within the present screen can actually see not only my availability, but also my status in terms of D&D, etc. as well. So it's helping your colleagues be able to see, when you're available, when you can speak, and when you want to be left alone. Just to wrap up a couple of extra things that are new in the product in version 3. First one is call history has changed a little bit in terms of its design. It follows the same sort of design language as the other things that we changed, like present. So you have a 2-line display, and photographs will display if users have photographs uploaded. If I bring up my call history, you can see an example of that. None of the users have any photographs at the moment. Actually, no, one of them does there. So you can see the photograph being displayed. 2-line display. So if you click on the top one, it brings up the contact information for that contact. If you click on the bottom one, it'll actually dial the contact in the normal way. On the right hand side here, when you hover over one of the calls, if you click on the little magnifying glass, it'll actually show you the details of the call. So it shows you the duration, the direction, whether it's an incoming call or an outgoing call. So some extra information there about that particular call. So that's the call history. We've also added a soft phone option. This allows users to make calls over the internet using either the headset or microphone attached to their PC. No need for them to use a handset. It will just show you how that's actually configured very easily. You go into the user's configuration on their PC, go to the telephony tab, and you'll see there's an extra option now called Use Soft Phone. This requires additional licensing. It's not a feature that's available as part of the main product. It requires additional licensing to enable this. This option is always visible though, whether the licensing is there or not. So if I click the option, you can see on my demonstration system, I don't actually have that licensing available. However, even without the licensing, it still brings up the additional audio page where you actually set up the soft phone. So you can still see this whether you're licensed or not. It just won't work without the licensing. Pretty straightforward here. You pick the microphone or the headset that you want to use while making these calls. It will try to auto detect the network card that needs to be used to make those calls. What we recommend here is you actually go in and specifically pick the network card that you want it to be able to use, rather than rely on the auto detect picking the right one. Other options down below, generally we recommend you leave them as is, and they don't normally need to be changed. If there is any problem with getting the functionality to work though, our tech support team might require you to make a few minor changes, but generally just leave those as they're normally set. So that's the soft phone option. We've also introduced a new feature called multi-tenant, and this essentially allows a single Xchange server to host multiple tenants or multiple end customers, if you like. Ideal for sort of shared offices where you have different companies in the same office, or sort of hosted installations and that kind of thing, where you have more than one distinct company that wants to use the functionality of Xchange. The way it works is you have a tenant licenses, a pot of tenant licenses is held on the Xchange server, and those licenses are then devolved down or allocated down to each tenant as required. You have a user that's an admin user that is a master tenant that can then see all of the users and all of the tenants down below and the users within and the extensions, etc. And they could administer the way the licenses are devolved down or apportioned down to those individual tenants. The functionality of a user using Xchange down in that environment is pretty much the same as it is with non-multi-tenant. The only difference is a few of the features of Xchange, such as the Microsoft Exchange integration and the Active Directory integration. They're not currently supported in a multi-tenant environment, but all the other normal functionality of the product itself is available whether you're in a multi-tenant environment or whether you're not in that environment. Last thing to mention is that we've actually changed the website. We've brought that up to date as well, made some various changes. So as you can see, we've redesigned the Xchange website. If you want to download a version of the PC client for version 3, just go into Downloads and into Software, and then scroll down, and you'll see here the version 3 PC client. As I mentioned at the beginning, later on we'll be introducing also the Operator and Mac versions for V3, but right now the client that you can download is just the PC client. At the time of recording this video, the feature that I mentioned earlier on, where you can change availability within the present screen, that's not available in that particular version that you can see on screen here, but maybe at the time that you watch this video you'll find that that feature is actually now included in the PC client. So that concludes this video on what's new in version 3 in Samsung Xchange.